Hello everyone and welcome to the Terraform Homestead. This week we are taking you through our concrete countertop renovation of our first tiny home. We're going to be tearing out the old kitchen, putting in a new one, using a lot of salvage and reclaimed materials, showing you guys our process of installing concrete countertops so hopefully you can do it yourself. This is a very inexpensive way to get a very high-end kitchen. So with that, let's get into this build. Now's the fun part. Getting the biohazard suit on and hoping there's no dead creatures living somewhere in here. I only see one dead body. Beep. The old kitchen out. We've got the start of the new kitchen in. I'm actually really liking these. These were kind of bought on a whim. I found these at a scrapyard, salvage yard kind of thing, and really happy with them. We're gonna paint all this. It's gonna look all beautiful. And once we get the concrete countertops in, I'm gonna do concrete. It's a terrible idea for any tiny house, but this house is not moving again. This is in its permanent spot. It has no wheels. I'm not worried about weight anymore. These are upper cabinets, so we need to raise them up a little bit and also get around this wheel well back here. What's convenient is that wheel well is with the foam on it exactly 5.5 inches tall, which is the size of a 2x6. So I got some 2x6s to build this framing. It's also very, very conveniently going to put our finished countertop height at approximately 36 inches, which is pretty standard height. So I wanted to show you guys kind of how I draw stuff up. I feel like a lot of people get really intimidated by doing construction projects because they're not like professional drawings and stuff. This is all I do. I got my measurements. We're going to do a little box in that corner to give it a little more support. And then what I like to do is mark how many, so one at 83 1/4, one at 12 3/4, 2 at 11 1/4, so on and so forth. That's all you need to do. I've worked with a lot of professionals and that's it. So the nice thing about getting a cut list like this is you can see as I cut, I mark off what I have. So not a big deal when you're doing 5 cuts, but when you're doing 50, it can kind of be really helpful. So next what I'm going to be doing is sanding down our front faces. I am not crazy about the electrical layout here. It would be really nice to have outlets up here, especially since we're going to be doing kind of a little mini office area here. And so what I think I'm going to do is get this conduit, run this up, and extend this electrical line. So I got a couple of outlets up accessible. May actually run a piece of conduit all the way up here because I've been wanting to get some exterior lights now that we're mounted in our permanent location. Found this clamp at probably a thrift store or something like that, and whoever did this is a genius. As soon as I get welding equipment out here, I'm doing this with all my C-channel clamp kind of things, because you actually have something to hold on to, and it adds a little hook. All right, here is where we're at. So got all this framing done. I think this is gonna be plenty strong for the countertops. The little center post I think is gonna help a lot, and also fills that gap that we have between the two cabinets. The next step is to address this issue. So that wasn't secured well enough. At some point it got pulled out of the wall. So I gotta go turn the electrical off and get that remounted. And then I gotta take the cover off and cut a hole in the back of this guy I'm actually really excited about this, having an outlet here, because I can get all of my camera equipment, filming equipment, stuff like that, batteries, that I don't really love having just out on a countertop, tucked away in this cabinet and away and out of sight. Kind of screwed that up, cut the wrong direction. So it's a little bigger than what I hoped, but that's fine. It's in a cabinet. It's gonna be hidden. I think is really funny is where I'm actually filming here. It's all nice and clean, professional. What the rest of my house actually looks like. Stuff is everywhere. It is destroyed. Next is paint. So I got a paint sprayer. It's a cheapy Harbor Freight $20 deal. I know it's gonna work terrible, but I had to get it for our Hyper Adobe for spraying our railroad ties. So I figure I'll try it out on this first, and we'll get all these cabinets out, everything primed, maybe painted tonight. I don't know, we'll see, probably not. All right, so the last thing it says to do is flip it upside down and then lube up the bottom hole. Loop, 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 loop. All right, we are all cleaned up, lubed up, and ready to go. All we gotta do is try this out. Not a good start. Warm up. The goal for today is to get the cabinets back in, get them all painted, hopefully get our cement board cut and put on top. Yeah, it's a beautiful Arizona morning, bright and early. Cranking as hard as I can today to get this done. And first thing is to get our paint sprayer put back together. Cleaned it really good last night after we used it, but hoping it'll work. Back out here and just looking at the finish from last night, it actually looks pretty good. I think we're ready to just jump in and do the finish coat. We've got our paint mixed up. Whoa. It's a little drippy. It's not sticking like super well, but I think coming back, I think it's just going to be a thing where I just have to do like 3 or 4 coats on this. So this round I made the paint just a little bit thicker. I was trying to find a balance between sticking to the cabinets and actually running through the machine, so that's where we're at. Got everything painted, second coat. It's looking pretty good. Now back into the house to get that wall painted, get the conduit up, and then we'll get all these cabinets installed. That looks so much better. I'm actually really happy with this color. You really can't tell where the seam is here. One tip that I do have for everybody is this was painted 7 years ago. The paint we use today is actually different than the paint that I used 7 years ago. So anytime I buy paint, I take a photo of the can and the little code thingy that's on it so that I have reference, and it just goes into my Google Photos and I can look back and see exactly the paint color I chose. Different paint color, but same sheen, which is good. You always want the same sheen. Colors change over time, so we actually got different paint swatches, came in here, put them up against the wall and see, basically to see which fit the best. So if I was to use that original paint from 7 years ago, or paint color mix, it probably wouldn't have matched as well as this. Next step is electrical. So the loose layout is the desk here above the window, and then over there have kind of more like the coffee pot, stuff like that I can plug into. So I want to add an outlet over there. I want to add an outlet here for computer monitor and also my actual laptop. I'm very excited about what this job is, this laser level. This was donated to us. I've actually never used it. I've never used a laser level, but I think it's going to be super helpful because I can line up my conduit there, line up my conduit there, get everything all nice and perfect. I think that's going to be really cool. I'm actually really glad I went with the 3/4 inch instead of the 1/2 inch because I've made some design changes on the fly, as I do. So I always get extra stuff. We're going to be putting in a smart switch here. I really like the smart home stuff. Just makes life easy to yell at a little device over there that must not be said their name, otherwise it'll talk to me. We're going to do the smart switch here and then run that up, over, up. I got to get a box for up here that'll punch out to the outside, and then I can run some extra lights, which is going to be really exciting. Our double gang box for coffee maker and stuff. This is just a little junction box, our little box for computer. This fit up actually went pretty tight. I'm actually pretty happy with how this came out, considering these are used cabinets. They were kind of banged up. A lot of our wood was scrap stuff. I mean, this piece was just literally a trash piece. All right, everybody, we are on day 3 of this kitchen renovation. And first thing today is to get this concrete board in place. It's fragile. It's not glued in yet. And I literally, as I was setting up, knocked it over. Knocked a corner out of the chunk out of the corner, so that's not fun. So we're gonna get this mounted. Now I get to move on to electrical, which I actually really enjoy. So we're gonna start running some of these wires, getting everything hooked up, getting that old conduit piece hooked up. All right, we got these 2 lights mounted, or not mounted, the conduit mounted, and that electrical wire run. I have these 2 lights I found, I don't know, somewhere at the thrift stores a while ago. You can see they're quite dirty, that they're gonna get mounted up, and we'll have outside lights. It's one thing to have a messy house, another thing to have a messy workshop, a very, very different thing to have a messy house that is a construction site. So I'm going to try and push through, get some stuff cleaned up, and get some sort of normalcy in here so I can exist before we get the countertop actually in. All right, everybody, it is day 5 working on this kitchen renovation. It's definitely taken a lot longer than I thought it was going to, but I don't know. I should know this by now. I should know that things take a lot longer than I think they're going to. Next step is to get the cabinet hardware on there. So I got these real pretty guys for like $1 a piece at a salvage yard. What I'm doing right now is making a jig for these. So I'm gonna drill through this wood, get these perfectly in place, and then I can just put this piece lined up on the corner of each one, and I know that each of these handles is going to be exactly lined up on all 6 cabinets that we're doing this on. I'm really liking how this is turning out. Got our cabinet doors in. It looks just real sharp. I was hesitant on the darker color, but I'm really happy with how it came out. Started to get stuff put back in. Still need to pour the countertops. We got our forms in today. I'm actually really excited about this cabinet here. So this is our new electronics cabinet. So I have this charger port thingy that plugs in 10 devices to charge our phones, which we use as cameras, headphones, speakers, stuff like that. A little storage space for tripods and stuff as we're doing all of our filming, our mics. And then this guy here I'm actually very excited about. I still got to figure out how to use it. It's a battery backup surge protector. So we can plug the coffee maker in, and I can plug internet into this, because fairly regularly in the mornings we'll run out of electricity because we don't have big enough batteries. That will get fixed at some point, but batteries are expensive. And so this will at least let us make a pot of coffee and keep the internet running until 9, 10 in the morning when we have enough sun to run things again. This is one of our residents. And he knows that my floor is generally messy with food, so he likes to wait at the door so he can come in. What's up? Alright, so we are here getting our concrete countertops on. Not the countertops on, forms on for the countertops, to pour the forms. We went through this company. They're not sponsored, but their system seems pretty easy, pretty foolproof. So here's what we got. Basically, you have 2 pieces. This is our edge form, which looks pretty nice. As I break everything. Yep, all hell broke loose. You have these edge forms that get thrown on the ground. They sit, get screwed into here. Yeah, it's all just very easy form making kind of thing. And then once concrete cures, these have a little brake line on them, and they get all snapped off and get a nice clean edge. Thought this would be pretty easy to install, but it's more the design that's the issue at the moment, because we have this corner, and my thought was to get one of these, just the backer plate, put that up there, and no big deal, because we have this cabinet that we want to continue to open, and I didn't realize these overhung like they do. So we can't have the concrete coming out blocking our cabinet. Got that little piece cut off here, this guy here, and I had to saw off just a corner. Luckily it was just a little corner. Handsaw. That's going to fit really nicely. And then my backer board's going to come right up to it. I've got this all in. Now I just need to come in with some electrical tape and seal up some of these little gaps. Threw down a bunch of cardboard to protect the floors, although they're terrible, so probably doesn't matter, but hopefully it'll help with the cleanup a little bit. I don't think this is necessary, but it makes me feel a lot better, and it only took in a few extra minutes, was putting a couple supports under this that are temporary. Alright, so we got our wire in. This is just some stuff that we had in the scrapyard, and kind of got it as flat as I could. I think it'll be okay. Kind of squish it in as we start pouring the concrete. so we got all the concrete in, and now to smooth it out, I definitely mixed way too much. We have almost a full bucket full extra, but that's fine. I'll figure out something to do with it. The big issue I'm running into is our little rebar pieces popping out, so I'm trying to shove those back in as best I can and get this all screed up. All right, so what I'm doing now is the final scrape. Got half of it. Look how good that looks. I'm super excited. And see if I can do this one-handed, but basically putting a lot of pressure and just really pushing into any of these little holes. It's kind of putting this cream on here. So I just get that off the trowel and kind of force it into some of these little cracks. Now is the hardest part of this build, to be patient, to let it dry. I just need to leave it for like 3 days. That's gonna be really hard. Our back, I think it's week 2 of this countertop build that was supposed to take a couple days. Concrete's been curing for a couple days, and now we're gonna pop this form off. I made this test slab on one of our outdoor tables just because I had extra concrete, and why not? And the nice thing is I get to test some stuff on this so I can screw up on this before I screw up on the main house. I put a earthen tint on this. This is company Earth Pigments. We use them for our lime plaster tinting, and it works great. I really like it. It's natural, non-toxic pigments. I did put a little bit of that just in a mix of water on this countertop. I'm liking the color a lot better. I think the natural concrete was just a little bit too light for what I was wanting. Now I've got 2 options I'm trying out. This new product that it's not sponsored or anything. Sand net. It's like a sandpaper replacement. So it intrigued me because I hate sanding and I hate replacing sandpaper, and it's just annoying to me. So it looks like this is basically you just kind of like vacuum it out, and you can even wash it in the sink, and it works. We're gonna try that first because I think that's gonna be less of a mess. If that doesn't work, I've got this little pad, polishing stone, diamond, something or another's. We're about ready to go. I've got the vent fan going. I've got everything covered with sheets for the most part. I think we're gonna go up to about a 400 grit, going from 50 to 100, 200, 400. All right, we're running through 50 grit. Pretty happy with this so far. We've still got a lot to do. This is gonna be a nightmare to clean up. Everything is splattered everywhere, but such is life. There's definitely a couple spots right there where our rebar is coming through, but it's really not that big a deal. It actually kind of adds a little shininess. This was kind of imperfect. I think that's looking really good. And yeah, just gonna keep going through the grits. This is fun. My angle grinder snapped. A little handle there. I think I have another one from my old angle grinder, but I gotta go find it. Really? Really? Both sides. We're just gonna wing it and try and get this done. So I just started on that 800, and it's actually, I think it's like pulling up some stuff because it actually feels rougher. I don't know, it's hard for me to tell. I think the 800's feeling rougher than the 400, so I don't know what's going on there, but I'm gonna go back to the 400. That flew off. Hit me in the nuts. I have a bruise. Holy hell. That was awful. We are about there. It's all polished down to 400 grit. My pad is completely broken, as are probably my nuts, but that's fine. We're gonna move on. All right, so we're polished, we're sanded, we're all that fun stuff. Now we're gonna put on our concrete sealer. Very exciting. It says to do 2 coats, let it dry an hour between each, and then 48 hours, and then we've got a coat of beeswax that's going on top of that. All right, we're back. Final day on this concrete countertop. I'm so excited. This project started on kind of a whim. I was just sick and tired of my kitchen and just tore it out one day and didn't really think through it. But now we're here a couple weeks later, finally getting this side of the kitchen mostly done. I've still got some touch-up work to do on paint and cleaning and stuff like that. Got a lot of organizing stuff in, a few more things on their way, and then we get to start on this mess and tearing all this out and redoing it. But today's project, got this concrete beeswax stone sealer. We're gonna stick that on there, buff it out, and in a couple hours our countertop will be ready to set up. Hello everybody, we're back at the big tiny house renovation today. We got this countertop in and the new cabinets in on this side. Now we're switching to the other side, which is the side I've been dreading working on. Tearing all this out. So kind of the backstory on this is 24-year-old Richard, when he put this in, basically, I hate drainage plumbing. I hate plumbing in general. I love electrical, but I hate plumbing. So when I did this, I was broke and was borrowing a PEX tool to put the actual inlet plumbing in, and was able to borrow someone's PEX tool, which was like 150 bucks for one day. But the day before that, I had to get all the drainage plumbing in, and it was the middle of December. I worked from like 7 p.m. to 2 a.m., so it was in the middle of the night. It had rained, so under the house was muddy, and it was horrible getting the drainage plumbing in, because I had that night to get it in, and it was cold and it was wet and it was muddy and it was awful, and so I rushed it and it didn't turn out very well. All that being said, we've had leakage issues on this drainage plumbing for forever, and the other day it all got clogged. I took a shot vac and tried to blow it out, and it basically exploded and splattered gross stuff everywhere. So I'm done. We're getting this out. We're getting started on this. The idea, luckily, is that we have enough materials from this half of the renovation that this half is going to be very inexpensive, because we're reusing the same cabinets. I've already got the concrete board, I've already got the forms, all that kind of stuff. We're just ripping it out, putting a new coat of paint on everything, and then I do have a new sink that's going in. My hope is that this stainless steel sink, this like dishwashing station, is that I can actually sell it and pretty much pay for this renovation, because I paid $200 for the stainless steel sink, and I've had plumbers tell me that they're worth like $2,000. So if I can get $1,500 for that, that'll pay for this whole renovation, which will be cool. Not super optimistic on that, but we'll see. This is ridiculous. As you can see, I'm not going to a drag show. I just finished getting the cabinets painted. So I really got to get this done, because I don't have water in the house until this is done. I need a shower, and I look like a sparkly drag queen right now. But we're on to the next thing, which is getting my least favorite thing in the entire world: drainage plumbing. So I'm gonna get these cabinets back in place. I found a kit for a double sink, so that's gonna make my life easier. I hate drainage plumbing. I hate plumbing. I hate drainage plumbing. I'm just buying the stuff to make it easier. So we're getting everything all glued up. It's all dry fitted. It works pretty well. I do like having that union down there. So just if for whatever reason I gotta take it apart, I can take it apart and not destroy everything, which will be nice. Got a new clean out. Got a P-trap up here, which I think will be good. And got a vent. So we're like going all legitimate here. Got my concrete board cut. And the nice thing about this half of the kitchen is we're using the same cabinets. Just had to get a new can of paint, had to get new concrete, but everything else pretty much is just leftovers from this side. Got the drain plumbing in, it looks so much nicer. And what I'm working on now is getting our form cut for the stove, and then I'm gonna get our form cut for the sink, and then I think that will call it for a night. I'm finishing this up, calling it a night. It's good progress today. Got everything ripped out, got all the cabinets painted, got the new drain plumbing in, got these guys rough fit, and yeah, tomorrow's getting concrete forms in. Maybe pouring concrete, I don't know, we'll see how the day goes. And then that'll all need to dry for a day or so. Day of grinding, and put everything back together. Alright, so we're back here. It's day 2 of the right side kitchen renovation. Yesterday I pushed really hard to get, at this point, cabinets out, plumbing out, cabinets painted. First thing I'm gonna do today is clean up the house, because this is ridiculous. Alright, so we're getting our forms in. I was a little bit short on these backing edge forms that I'm using for my cutouts. So what I had to do is actually use this front form and cut a little bit more out of the sink, which not a big deal, just kind of a little bit annoying. So we got this rebar all in. One thing that I did do on this is make sure that it's laying a lot flatter. One of the issues I had over here was once I started pouring, that rebar started wanting to pop up. There's a couple spots, it's not super noticeable, but that rebar actually came through. So I want to make sure we're not doing that on this one. It's a nice windy day out today. It's going to be real fun to make some concrete. One thing that's super important with concrete, get all your tools laid out, get a plan in place, run through the thing through your head. Because if you're trying to run around and get stuff after it's starting to set, you're going to have bad time. Alright, so we got our concrete poured. It's looking pretty good. I made it a little bit too wet, which is not the end of the world. I'm gonna let it dry out for a little bit, and then I can get the steel trowel on it and start cleaning it up. It's been maybe 18 hours, something like that, that this concrete's been setting up. That's not long enough to really be buffing it, but I really want to get the sink back in, because as long as this sink is out, I don't have a shower and I don't have a bathroom sink, and so that's gotten really annoying. I was able to get the forms off, get this all polished down. It's looking real good. I'll still let it dry for a couple days before I put the sealer on it. But I'm at a point where I can get the faucet back in, stove back in, all that fun stuff back in. My first project for today is to get this shelf up. So this was actually part of our countertop, the butcher blocks we took out. Alright, so we got our shelf in. That was not as traumatizing as I thought it was going to be. Really pretty happy with how this is looking. So I ordered a new faucet scratch and dent thingy off eBay. I was able to get this one in a little more secure with some 2-part epoxy. So at least that one's in. One thing that really annoyed me was this little plug. It's just a little piece of plastic that sticks in there. It was $4.50 for that. This stuff's gotten stupid expensive. I'm really happy with how this is coming together, getting some paint in. I got our Starlink cable rerun, so it's not all just janky and out there. I am very grateful to Elon Musk for color coordinating his router with my house. That was really appreciated. Right, it has been about a month that I've been living with this new kitchen, and I am so happy with this renovation. This place has just become so much more functional, so much more comfortable. So I want to take you guys around, show you what we did, all the new features, and how they're working out. Coming into our kitchen, these new cabinets have been amazing. And so before, I just had the cabinets over here, and we didn't really have a lot of functional space. It wasn't good organization. It wasn't good shelves, because there was just the under the sink shelving and then one giant shelf over here that everything just got thrown into, and it wasn't organized. Now that we have more under counter storage, it's lovely to actually have a shelf for plates, have a shelf for bowls. One of the cool things that I did in here, because we are filming a lot, is having a technology cabinet. So I got USB splitter. It's got 12 ports, so I can charge all the phones that I use for cameras, headphones, battery packs, speakers, have some extra storage for some miscellaneous electronics, tripods, things like that. And it all plugs in underneath the countertop. So no cords, just keeps the space a lot cleaner. Coming up, this new electrical system has been great. Having our little stations here for the most used appliances, our air fryer and coffee pot is great. Everything just tucks back into the wall. And also having a dedicated office space over here with a single countertop that fits nice and a nice view outside of our saguaros and pizza ovens. Another nice feature is this new shelf. So this was actually the desk that was here before. I got some hanging brackets or floating brackets, and now I'm able to store a lot more of our big pots and pans, things like that, that just felt awkward and didn't fit in a place before. One thing that kind of made me laugh, came in, got this paint, got these cabinet liners, and we have our Starlink router here. And I'm very, very pleased that Elon Musk decided to make the router perfectly match my house. Coming into the other side of the kitchen, which is mostly our cooking stuff, you can see we matched our concrete countertop. Been really happy with how these came out. They're, you know, it was my first pour, so there's a little wobbly in there, a little bit wavy in some spots. It's not perfect, but I'm pretty happy with it in general. Switch to this double sink. One thing that I'd like to tell people is, as you're designing a tiny house, as you're building a tiny house, think of your habits in your normal home, because they're not going to change. And for me, I hate doing dishes. I did switch to a double sink to hopefully make it a little bit easier, because I know with the one big sink, I would let it completely pile up and then it was just more miserable to clean. With this, I don't let myself put dirty dishes anywhere but one side, so only one side gets filled up and then I have less dishes to do in one pass. And over here, took our drying station that was in the countertop that wasn't really used and wasn't super functional. So I have a place to dry dishes, have a place to wash dishes over here. We have our stove over here, which is the same stove as before, but it's actually inset into the countertop like it's supposed to be. A nice little prep station. And one of the things that I've really enjoyed about having this upgrade is upgrading this little station here. So these are actually some industrial pegboards, metal pegboards, able to keep all of our spaces and accessible pots and pans actually organized. When you're designing and building a tiny house, vertical space is your best friend, so being able to get all this up and off the wall is great. Going back to storage. So again, before, these cabinets were totally full. Now, because we have the other side, there's really not much in here. Still have plenty of space in our cabinets. Another big thing was getting our trash from out and hidden and under the counter, which is really nice, so it's just not visible. Everything stays in there now. We have trash, recycling, and then underneath the fridge is paper stuff that gets burned out here because we got to deal with our own trash. I think one of the biggest improvements in here is this does not leak anymore. I got rid of the multiple sink system, put in a proper double sink system, got all the plumbing redone. I hate doing drainage plumbing, I hate doing plumbing in general, but now it doesn't leak on the floor whenever you put too much water down the sink, which is a huge improvement in my life. The other thing I've really liked about this upgrade is this. This is a really simple storage solution. Purchased it off Amazon, and it just puts all the spices accessible, out of the way, utilizing vertical space. All right, coming to the other side of the house, we have our new table. This was actually our piece of butcher block from the old kitchen, sanded down, sealed, and I bought these legs pretty cheap. I think they were like 30 or 40 bucks. And this is our new kind of dumping station in table. Also acts as another desk, which is nice because I tend to like bounce around the house all day. I don't like sitting in one spot for too long, so it's nice to have that. And also just have a spot because a lot of times I come in with tools in my pockets or screws or whatever hardware and just have a place to dump it. Stuff gets brought into my house, I know it goes on the table, it goes back out to the shop or wherever next time. A couple other little improvements are our new end tables. So this is actually our old butcher blocks, and just cut down, use some pocket hole screws to mount those to the wall, and made a couple end tables out of just our scrap stuff because I don't like to waste anything. I've been using this kitchen for well over a year now, and it has been such an improvement in my life to have a proper sink that works, a proper workstation, and just something that feels really high-end that you could be proud of. Most all the products that we used in this video will be in the description below. If there's anything that you see in this that is great for your tiny home or just home in general, links to everything is going to be in the description below. Next up, which if you enjoyed this video, I bet you're going to like this one, we have our 54 square foot tiny house renovation, where we take a tiny house on wheels, take the wheels off, gut it, and turn it into a wonderful dwelling for one of our workaway residents. So we've got that video queued up for you right now. Go check it out now.